Hi there, gang. Again. Or still. Apart from my Facebook and newsletter, small rants about the status we find ourselves in with the coronavirus and toilet paper, which I reiterate is available in small supply, you're not allowed to take heaps, from the salvos at their usual price of $2.50 for 6 rolls, which is a heap less, I think, than you can get ordinarily at Coles. Although goodness knows how much it will be when it gets back on the shelves. But you can keep on going to the salvos. At least when you deal with the Salvation Army, you know that the money is going, hopefully, to somewhere worthwhile. Certainly more worthwhile than to the CEO and shareholders of Coles, wonderful people though they are. Now, my grandfather died in the Spanish flu, and that was, I think, in 1918, something of that nature. I would imagine at that time that they didn't have any, or very few, what we would call antibiotics. Well, not what we have now. I know that my father got used to eating the fungi on top of jam because he believed that would keep him well. It may have, but I don't know that his grandfather knew to do that. They did it during the war, I believe. So at that time, with the Spanish flu, it didn't last a huge amount of time. It was very widespread through Europe. Of course, there was no internet, no web, so the population really didn't know what was going on, and twice as many people died. And I think that primarily had to do with the fact that A, they didn't have antibiotics, and B, they didn't know what caused the flu or how to counteract that, and their nutrition was so abysmal that they were unhappy hosts for this amazing virus that had spread so quickly. So when we come to this particular brand of the virus, because this is just another generation of the flu or the common cold or whatever it is. It just has a much more complex protein on the outside, so it spreads through the population very quickly, and it spreads in a different way and very efficient. As viruses go, it's a very efficient virus. And I brought this up in my newsletter today. We don't think about this, but in the area where the virus originated, there is a huge chemical warfare, chemical plants there. So we have to take into consideration that, like SARS, it could have been an escapee from the factory. It could have been. Viruses are very hard to keep in small places, and it would have been easy enough for it to get away. The fact that China didn't notify us for some time, thank goodness for the whistleblower, we don't know exactly what has happened. And, I think China is a fantastic place. I'm not saying anything about China at all. I'm not trying to be political. What I'm saying is that there is a chemical warfare division in their ideas, and certainly in America as well, and I don't know about here. So it's really important that we keep that in mind, that it may not have been entirely accidental. It could have been an escapee for one of those biohazard chemical factories. It could have been. In which case, I wonder what they're learning. If I was a scientist, what I would be learning is that this particular virus is very fast, it's very efficient, and if I was going to piggyback something onto it, I'd know by now it would be a very good host for something even less pleasant. So, but that's just because I think like I think. What can you do about it? Well, here are my opinions. They may not be yours. And I'm not trying to frighten anybody into submission. I'm just saying these are the things that you can do. They are what I am doing. Before we do that, we can start on what makes you more susceptible, because unless we know where your weaknesses are, we can't make them into strengths, can we? So over the last few months, or 6 months, something like that, we've had enormous anxiety, particularly in Australia and California, with regards to fires and floods, and in England floods, of course, and changing climate patterns and feeling that we have no control. Well, we've never had control, but maybe we just felt that we had more than we've got now. We thought that our houses would protect us, but now we know that that is nonsense. So mass echo anxiety depletes your immune system. No new news there. Grief depletes your immune system, particularly around the areas of the lungs. So it's interesting to note that the virus is particularly attracted to older persons and males. These are two areas where grief and anxiety reside, and so that's no mystery. So it's very important that we deal with grief and anxiety in the most productive ways that we can, which is different for each of us. Could be counselling, could be talking it out, it could be taking up tango dancing, whatever it is, do it. Another thing that you may not have thought about is the proliferation of 5G into our world. Now, this just looks like, oh well, it's just an upgrade of the computer. No. It is more stuff into the soup of radiations that surround us. Correct? Yes. But this one is much stronger. So it is also damaging your immune system and lessening your ability to fight back. It's interesting to note, if you put a map of the countries of the world where 5G masts are most placed, then around the area where the SARS virus originated, I think they've got something like 10,000 5G masts. Hello? Thank goodness we haven't even got one. And then, of course, there's Italy and Spain. They've been really very efficient in taking up Huawei's ideas about how the world should be. So what can you do about this? Nothing terribly much if politicians have their way. You can be talking to your political person in your town. You can talk to your sustainability people. And, for me, one of the things I've done is, I don't know whether you can see that, I have a black obsidian crystal around my neck. Now, I never thought I would do that, but somebody said to me that it's very good for combating negative energy, and that was some years ago. They told me that, and I got the black obsidian, and it sat on my desk, and I thought the other day, oh, yes, negative energy, 5G. So I put it on, and really, when I put it on, immediately I felt lighter. Now, I didn't expect that, and I don't want to go all crystal mothery on you, but I certainly did feel a difference, and I'm not going to take it off anytime soon. And the thing about it is, by the end of the day, it really is quite hot, even though it lives on the outside of my sweater. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing for that. Now, poor eating habits. As I said, the reason that the flu virus went around Europe so efficiently in 1918 was the eating habits of the population was just shocking. Not because of any other reason, that as long as they had something in their stomach, they were happy. And for the poor people, and they were the most, I'm sure that the poor people were the most people to die, that potatoes and flour and sugar and things like that is what they mostly had. And guess what? That's what most of our population have. They might think that when they go to McDonald's and they have their bun and their beef, that at least they're getting beef. But everything else in there totally negates the beef, I have to say. That can be Hungry Jacks or any of those things, or even if you do it at home. Throw the bun away, make your own hamburger mince out of real meat without sugar, and then away you go. I remember after the bushfires, I had a period where I was slightly pre-diabetic, and I thought, well, I'm just going to have meat and things that I definitely know haven't got sugar in. So I went to my local delicatessen and I said, are there any of these meats here that don't have sugar? And she said, I don't know. And I said, well, I can't buy them until I do know, so can you find out for me? And at the delicatessen, there wasn't one example of a meat that didn't have sugar. And then I went to the meat counter, and they couldn't tell me unless I purchased, if I got any of the ground meats or any of that, they didn't know. If I bought something that was on the bone, they couldn't tell whether it had been put in sugar to store it or something like that. It was a very, very interesting time. I ended up talking to some friends who shot their own rabbits and so forth. So I got sugarless meat at that time. So I have been saying for years and years and years, eat your greens. And I also have been saying, pick your greens from your driveways and your nature strips and the football fields and all that kind of thing. And I have had foraging classes before, but I think they're very important at the moment. So please, please, please come to the foraging classes Sunday, which is the 15th of March, between 2 and 4 here, if you're interested. In my garden, I've got a lot. And they provide me with most of my greens. I go and pick them, and then I cut them up, and then I eat them. There's only about half an hour max between picking and eating. So there's dandelion. I've got a list here: dandelion, yarrow, wild parsley, wild mustard, psyllium, plantago, dog rose. I make the essence in the hips, by the way. Herb, robert, comfrey, celery, herb, thyme, chives, shallots, potatoes, various kinds of spinaches. I've got artichokes. I've got all kinds of things growing. And I really do get great pleasure out of going into the garden. And I was out walking the other day, and I picked bulrushes, and I picked wild mustards, and I picked dandelions, and I picked all kinds of things. By the time I came home, I had tea. So please, please start looking around, because nature provides us what we need when we need it, not when we think we need it or out of season. So buy it now. Use your crystals, get essences, rosehip, make your own, or that kind of thing. Supplements, vitamin C, selenium, zinc, magnesium, thiamine. With your vitamin C, it's hugely important. Take it until you can poop through a keyhole, and then just pull it back a little bit until your poop gets normal again, you'll know then that you're supersaturated. If you should manage to pick up coronavirus, I am told that intravenous vitamin C is better than anything else that you can take. Finding a doctor to do that is a little bit harder, but please do think about it. Anyway, that is my rant on the coronavirus. Please, don't just wipe your hands with something as if it's a magical thing. It's not. You need to build your immune system, because this is just one. There will be more. Don't think that this is the end of it. If your immune system is down and you are likely to get this virus, you are likely to get others, and we're coming into winter. So please pay attention and eat your greens. No dessert until you eat your greens. Namaste. We have to do this. Last year I got into trouble for doing this at the church, and now it's mandatory, which is quite beautiful. Namaste.